World of Warcraft is a MMO, a massively multiplayer online video game that has all these different players take part in groups of content, such as raiding and Mythic Plus. These groups of content require many, many people. Raiding is where 20 different people get together to try and take down a very difficult challenge. Um, as such, that having 20 different people means they have to play different sorts of things and have sorts of different playstyles. Meanwhile, Mythic Plus only has 5 people. This is a guild. Guilds usually have up to hundreds of people in them, and so if we only need 20 people or 5 people, how do we manage all that? Well, we have the perfect solution for you.
Introducing Wow-Teamz, the app for World of Warcraft that will allow you to manage your raid and Mythic Plus teams easily and effectively. For players new or old, this app will let you dump that old Excel spreadsheet and give you the confidence you need to lead your teams to victory.
So for the tech stack, we have AWS MySQL Server or Amazon Web Services. And this is a database service used to store all criteria and data pertaining to World of Warcraft. So as you can see right here, these are all the tables that we chose to include. Then from there, we have React.js. This is a JavaScript library used to build front-end user interface applications. We also have KOA.js. This is a backend framework used for the purpose of constructing the server and facilitating the request response cycle. So for this application, the primary purpose of KOA is to orchestrate the routing process. And then from there, we also chose to work with Material UI, which is a front end framework specifically used for the purpose to create UI designs in React applications. Then if we move on to the login page, we have a variety of different properties that it consists of. So one of the properties is basically it allows the user to input their email address and password as the login credentials. These properties are used as criteria for the input payload. And then from there, another property is basically for security purposes. The HTTP method is a post request rather than a GET request. The reason for this is because in a GET request, the parameters would be visible in the URL, which would make it a lot easier for hackers to perform malicious activity. So as a result, it's a lot more advisable to establish a post request so the parameters will be inserted in the input payload, concealing the information inserted by the user. The request response cycle for this particular API endpoint would work as followed. So basically, the user inputs the email and password and selects sign in. And then from there, a request would be made to the server. The server triggers the login API endpoint. The route definition is subsequently executed, which activates the controller file. And then from there, the controller file executes the necessary operations to determine if the user is authorized to log in. Then from there, the server sends back a response to the user indicating whether or not the user has valid credentials.
Let's sign into the app. I'll use my admin account. After we log in, the first thing we want to do is create a raid team. So let's click the button. The raid team name has to be specific. It can't have the name matching to any other team. And our raid team has been created. If we want to delete a raid team, all we do is click the delete button, and this will update the database. If we want to load data into the raid teams, we simply click this drop down. This signals a use effect in the code to load the characters in the database with a specified raid ID from the raid team. And if we want to click it again, we can view that data that we clicked. If we want to click into a specified raid, we can see the data loaded in for each character in the raid. Right now, we have 5 DPS, 3 healers, and 1 tank. If we want to view the characters in a larger selection screen, we click this button. The character count lists how many characters are in the raid currently, and under it lists the classes of characters that are currently missing in the raid. It's important to have at least one of each class in the raid, as each character class brings something unique to the raid. The data we're displaying for the characters is the image, role, name, race, class, and item level. The two most important being the role and the item level. If we want to select a different role, all we do is select the drop down and it'll update the database. So now this character is a healer. If we want to delete a character from the raid, all we do is click the delete button. This will signal a use effect in the code that will generate a delete request to the API and then to the server. We also have notes in this character table. Click the drop down to display them and click these 3 buttons to set the notes. So we can just set this is a note. Click save, and then the note appears down here. Notes are very important to this program. They allow raid team owners to communicate important information about players in the raid. This could be regarding skill level, time constraints, anything that will impact the raid performance as a whole. If we want to add a character to the raid, all we do is press this plus button. This brings up a text box where we can type in a player's name to add them to the raid. So let's type in a name. And our character has been pulled from the API into the database. Now all we need to do is select a role. I'll select tank. When we select a role, it changes the table in the database. So now the character table has an updated role of healer or tank, depending on what you pick. We think this app will be very useful to consumers because gaming is not just a hobby for many people anymore. With the last 10 to 15 years, esports and competitive gaming as a whole has become the largest form of entertainment media on the planet, attributing $1.4 billion market size in 2022 and is expected to grow to more than $1.9 billion by 2025. So if competitive gaming is your career, utilizing tools like ours isn't just an option anymore, it's a necessity. Thank you for your time.